Hey, this is Ryan Phillips here. We just concluded the first ever Mind Sports International tournament in Las Vegas. Basically, I guess a company called Mind Sports International decided they wanted to have a tournament in Las Vegas where they had a whole bunch of different mind sports, I guess is the term they're using. So we had chess, not checkers, chess, Go, Mahjong, Magic the Gathering, and Go. And yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool little event. The atmosphere was definitely different than your typical chess tournament. There's a lot more noise, and um, I mean, it was the first time they ever did it, so I was expecting there to be some growing pains, which there certainly were. But for the most part, I thought it was pretty cool. I'm not sure if maybe the company focused too much on the television aspect, which I think is a good idea. But I think for the first couple of times, it would have been nice if they kind of felt if they kind of organized the different tournaments that were being held simultaneously. So I think they did a nice job letting the people who were running the individual tournaments autonomy. I thought that was fine, but I thought there was some kind of way to um, kind of blend the different games that were going to be in the same room. If there was a way that we could all kind of get together and talk about stuff, even just stuff as far as like starting at the same exact times. I know a few times we would start a chess game, and then the Magic the Gathering would start like just 5-10 minutes after we started. So there would be like a brief explanation period by the I don't know if they call it like a TD for Magic the Gathering or whatever they're called, and it would be right at the beginning of the chess game when we could have they could have explained the instructions before our game started, for example. So stuff like that, I think they'll definitely, hopefully, improve upon. And even I was thinking maybe a partition would be good if there's a way to separate the different games. I don't know, maybe that would be like against what they're looking to do, but it was a different atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed the commentary. I must admit that I did get a pretty big advantage in this tournament. So basically, there was a dilemma going to the first round where I really wanted to do the commentary, and they really wanted me to do the commentary as well. But the commentary was, of course, during the first game. So essentially, I didn't really want to not get I mean, I wanted to play in the tournament, of course, so not playing in the tournament wasn't really an option. And a half point by, I was kind of I didn't know if I wanted to accept that. I think I might have just preferred to play and not done the commentary. So it kind of worked out an agreement that was extremely favorable to me. Admittedly, that I would get a full point for doing the commentary. So I understood that, especially in a 5 round event, it was a pretty big advantage. I'll definitely admit. But I will say that I didn't feel like fresher than my. I don't think I felt fresher. I don't think that was an advantage. Obviously, getting the full point was an advantage. But as far as like fatigue or stamina, the commentary was actually quite tiring, much more so than I anticipated. I'd say it was actually a lot more tiring than playing a game, since it was essentially just 3 hours of talking and doing something that's kind of out of my element and a lot different than I'm accustomed to. Even though this seems similar to that, it was a lot different to have like someone asking me questions and having to comment on a live game, and that I don't know exactly what's going to happen, so I'm basically just spouting off a bunch of different variations that could conceivably occur. But most of the variations, just like in your own chess games, they never came up. So it was a lot of talking about stuff that was not relevant to what ended up happening in the game. Anyway, so basically after the first round was on Friday night, so it was only one game on Friday, and then there was two games yesterday, Saturday, and today, Sunday. So this is my second round, or it was the second round of the tournament. But my first game that I played, it was Saturday morning at the Tom Brownscombe, and I think this is probably one of my better games of chess to date. So Tom's rated a little over 2,200, and I believe this is my first master that I've beaten. So I was extremely proud of this game just for that fact, even though I think Tom himself might admit he doesn't quite play master strength anymore. I'd say he's played closer to between 21 and 2,200 at this point. So, but still, I mean, it was still a good game. So basically, went e4, c5, knight f3, e6, and then I've been having pretty poor results in general against this e6 Sicilian. I really don't like the ideas I've come up with in this opening. Usually, it just seems like I can't really do very much, and Black just kind of gets that solid structure they want with the a6, e6 pawns, knight on c6, f6, bishop on e7, or sometimes b4, queen c7, queen c7, d6, castle, and it seems like it's very hard for White to do anything about this. So I've been watching a video from Lisa Melakina. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I think she's an FM. And she put out these videos against the C3 Sicilian, and then coincidentally, a few days after I watched those, I I think it was Nakamura. I can't recall. It was a very strong GM. He played c3 against his e6 line, so I didn't intend to play the c3 Sicilian against, like, say, a d6 move here. But against e6, since I haven't had too good of success against it, I figured, why not to try c3. And also, I seem to have very good results. I don't know why when I play an opening for the first time. I have no idea why. Maybe my mind is fresh and I come up with new ideas. The game against Scott Raymond is a notable exception where I got crushed in the perk. But for the most part, when I break out a new opening, like when I played the French against Jonathan Zavala, I played the d4 against Michael Graves. I guess the d4 game, I'm not going to really attribute it to the opening. I think I just outplayed my opponent in the middle game. But against Jonathan with this French, I think I think that was all opening that game that helped me win that game. So anyway, so I went c3 and then knight f6. So knight f6 or d5 is the con move. On the post-mortem after the game, Tom said he doesn't like these structures of d5. I have no problem with them. I think d5 is a fine move. I guess he's worried. I think he was worried about. I always say he's worried about something. He's worried about getting like an isolated queen pawn. He was saying. So I guess he doesn't like the isolated queen pawn. But I think this structure is perfectly fine for black. I think he's overly concerned. I mean, the piece activity, all your pieces are on good squares. The bishop diagonals are open. Your knights can go to f6 and c6 automatically. I don't think the isolated queen pawn is too big of a disadvantage to incur. And I think black could actually get a slate. I think black, it's very easy for them to develop their pieces. So anyway, so Tom went with this move, and then knight d5. So this is all basically mainline c3 Sicilian, and I like this variation with e6 played because usually white will play an early bishop c4, which occurred in the game, and then black usually has a decision between e6 or knight b6. So here I'm basically taking my decision. I'm forcing them to play e6, which some people might prefer to play e6 anyway, so that might not be that big of a deal. But some players might prefer to play knight b6, in which case you basically kind of eliminated that plan from them. Although my opponent ended up playing knight b6 in the game, but I think it was a mistake. So d4, c takes d, knight c6, bishop c4, knight b6. And then here the main line, the computer recommends bishop d3, but I rejected this move. I didn't like knight b4. So basically the computer's just saying I should give up this light square bishop, and even though the eval is slightly better for me, I really don't like giving up my light square bishop, especially with my pawns on d4 and e5. Since both my pawns are on dark squares, I thought my light square bishop would be a very good piece in this game, which it turned out to be a pretty solid piece. So I guess giving up the bishops, I have the space advantage and the development advantage. I have 3 pieces developed. I can castle, and opponent has 1. And this d6 square looks nice as well. But I didn't want to give the 2 bishops, and I don't think this is. I don't find this preferable to what ended up happening in the game, even though the computer might disagree. So I went bishop b3, and my opponent played d6, and I believe now we're back in opening territory. And here I played a move that hasn't been played before, but the computer says it's the second best move. I went with castle. So I was basically willing to trap the queens after this move. So basically the idea is end up occurring d takes e5, queen takes, rook takes. And even though my space advantage is somewhat less relevant with the queens off the board, since I don't really have as much attacking prospects, I just thought the development advantage I had in the way it was my pieces could easily develop. I liked this position for white, even though the computer showed it as being pretty even. But I just thought it was really easy for me to get my pieces out onto good squares and to kind of gradually improve my position, whereas I thought it was hard for black to find a plan. So d takes e5, d takes e5, queen takes d1. I was looking at knight d5 during the game, but the computer doesn't seem to like this move very much. I guess they're showing it's okay. Bishop d2. I thought knight d5 was an interesting idea during the game. Bishop d2, I guess, with the idea of playing knight c3, which isn't easy to find. So this bishop d2 would have been a unique move for me, and I doubt I would have played it. I could have seen myself playing something like bishop g5, but I probably would have been worried about queen c7. So I'm not sure exactly what I would have played here. I was actually thinking maybe even queen e2 with the idea of rook d1 was probably the idea I would have opted for if my opponent played knight d5. Anyway, Tom took. I took back, and then bishop e7, so just preparing a castle. And here the computer shows the game as being relatively even. A small advantage for white, but I just find white's position very easy to play here, and it's very hard for me not to find the right move. It feels like, my knight where's my knight going to go except for c3? The dark square bishop has some choices, but I think f4 overprotecting the e5 pawn and vacating the c1 square for that rook on a1. I thought this was all a pretty logical plan, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. So knight c3, castle, bishop f4, just because I couldn't really see anywhere else to put the bishop. Chad asked me if I considered bishop e3, which I really didn't. I'm not really sure. So I guess this is basically even to bishop f4. This didn't seem as logical to me, though, to be honest. So I thought bishop f4 was a good move. Bishop d7, which computer likes, and then rook a c1. So here the computer's showing a pretty even game, but I find it hard to believe that my position is not easier to play. Just all my pieces are on nice squares. My rooks are not only connected, but they're already occupying both of the open files, whereas my opponent is 2 moves away from accomplishing that goal. Maybe my bishop on f4 and knight on f3 are maybe too tied down to the defense of the e-pawn, so maybe that's kind of a weakness, but I still like my position quite a bit here. So Tom played knight a5, I played bishop c2. So knight a5 probably was not, the computer showed it as a second choice just now, but I don't know if this is the best one. I think rook fd8 was a much better move, and then even rook c8 the next move, and I think it would be tough for me to make progress, but I still think I have a slight advantage just because I have a little bit of space advantage, and I think I'm going to get my knight to d6 there. So I think this would have been okay for me to press my advantage in this position also. Knight a5, bishop c2, bishop c6, which I think this was the mistake. So I think knight a5 to vacate this c6 square for the bishop was not the best plan. So I played knight d4. I was really hoping he'd play bishop d5, which he did. So after bishop d5, it wasn't too hard for me to find this knight f5 idea. And then I think the idea is pretty straightforward. If he takes, take, and then if he takes, so I'm going to win this the f5 pawn because the knight's attacked, and then after the knight moves, I'll just win the pawn here. And I'll be up a pawn, and I have the 2 bishops, and my rooks are much more active than my opponent's still. And then if he tries like a desperado, something like this, then of course I have knight takes e7 with check first, and then I win the bishop and I'm just up a piece. So he doesn't have any kind of desperados here. Same idea with like bishop takes g2 because I have this knight takes e7 in between move. So here we saw bishop b4. And I think bishop c5 might have been a preferable move. Even though the computer's showing that I still keep an advantage in this position. But bishop b4 I think was a decisive mistake. So I had a nice combination here that I pulled out. I played knight takes d5, knight takes d5, and then I think this is the move he missed. I played the exchange stack rook takes d5. Which isn't really a sacrifice at all, since I'm going to get either his knight on a5 or his bishop on b4, as you'll see if you don't already see it. So after rook takes, he really has no better option than taking my rook. So say he plays e takes f5, then just a3, and I'm going to win the knight on a5 or the bishop on b4. So he took on d5, and then I played a3. And this is just very fortunate alignment of pieces maybe, but I didn't foresee this, but I foresaw that my pieces were on better squares, so the fact that, stuff like this arised in my favor shouldn't be surprising. And he doesn't really even have any like counterattacks, so if he plays g6, I could play either knight h6 check, or I could take on b4, because if he takes my knight, I'll take his knight on a5 and still be up a piece. So he's got no in-between moves. And so if he plays bishop c5, then I have this b4 move, and that forks a piece, and so I get a piece for a pawn in this variation. So say he takes here, which isn't probably the best move, but this is totally winning for white, of course. So after this move, I thought he found a nice move with knight c6. I thought this was a reasonable move. So I took, and here computer likes bishop b1. I felt this move was a little slow. I didn't see like anything wrong with it, but instinctually I just Yeah, and I'm not even exactly sure why I preferred knight d6. I think just chess instincts told me this was the better move, even though it might not have been maybe bishop b1. I of course wanted to preserve my bishop pair, but I also thought that attacking in a faster manner was a better idea. And I can't. My initial reaction, if I could play a move like bishop b3, that would be great. But unfortunately, this move loses to knight d3. It could be actually showing that it's pretty equal in this position, which is interesting to me. I guess I just give back the exchange with a move like g3. Knight takes c1, bishop takes c1, and the computer's showing this as being fairly even. Probably, I guess the two bishops actually. I guess it's the two bishops are pretty menacing together still, even in this position. But yeah, bishop b3 I think would have been a significant mistake. So I just played knight d6. And I was expecting him to take on c2, in which case I just figured I'd have control of the c file for as long as I wanted it or needed it. But he ended up playing b6, just guarding the b7 pawn. And then I played bishop f5 here. g6. And I think something has been clicking in my chest. I feel like I've gotten a lot better, just even recently. And I think I'm about to reach like another level in chess. But I mean, this isn't like such a brilliant move to find. But I'm definitely looking more for like counterattacking. So after g6, I wasn't thinking I'm going to move my bishop, and I saw g6 of course before I played bishop f5. So my idea after g6 was just play bishop d2. So hit the knight on a5 or on b4. I'm sorry. So knight a6, and then I have this cool move that I liked a lot, bishop c8. Which apparently isn't nearly as good as, say, bishop g4. But I like bishop c8, so I don't know, I thought it was a cool move to get to play. So knight c5, and now I have to worry about knight b3. This is a real threat. So I have to be careful here. And then also it looks like that my opponent could just take my bishop and that get 2 pieces for a rook. But I always have this nice move b4. And if the knight can't retreat and guard the rook at the same time, so it'll actually be giving up another exchange if black takes on c8. So I found this nice move, I thought, bishop h6, so this continued to attack well. And then he played rook f takes c8. And then here I almost played b4, which the computer shows would be a bad move, but I couldn't really see why. Luckily I didn't play this move. I played knight takes c8 and simplified quickly. But I didn't see why this. Yeah, I guess this just doesn't preserve as much of an advantage, so this is just totally winning for black computer showing. So instead of being up a whole piece, I'm just up 2 pieces for a rook, and I don't think that's enough with the passed pawns on d5, c5, and a7. So luckily I didn't screw up a very good game. I played knight takes c8, rook takes c8, b4. And I wasn't exactly sure why my opponent went this line, other than the fact that he didn't really have anything else to do. But yeah, I guess he came up with something here with this move a5. So he basically tried to scam me with his passed pawns that he'd be creating. But I don't think they were ever anything that I had to really be worried about. So I took on c5. I have to take here. Otherwise he's going to take me, and then I don't win his knight, and then black is just winning. So take, and then if rook takes, and we trade, so this is pretty easy for me to win. I think just rook takes should be fine. And I think this should be winning for me. But he took with the pawn anyway, and then I played rook a1, rook a8, and I think I found this nice move, rook a4. So basically I want to stop this pawn from advancing, so I could keep it on a dark square and potentially attack it with my bishop, say, to d2. So he played rook b8, threatening mate on b1. And then here I think I played kind of a lazy move. I have a tendency to kind of overreact to these type of threats. But of course it's natural because I'm not a computer, so I can't see everything. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, so I can't just I want to play king f1. I think this is the best move, but I have to be careful with the checks. So say, I was a little worried about this. I guess here just probably bishop to d2 is playable, I bet. I do have to be careful about c3 though. Or the computer's showing king e3. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I could have seen this, but it's scary to allow your opponent all those checks, of course. So I played g3, which is again probably a lazy move, and then d4 came. So there's really no good way to protect the a5 pawn. Say he plays rook b5, then just bishop d2. I think should be fine. Well, this computer doesn't like bishop d2 as much as I thought this was more than convincing, because the king can come over. So say like king g7. Say something like this. The king has plenty of time to come over and stop the pawns. And now here the pawns aren't going anywhere, and I'm going to win these two pawns, and the 4-on-3 with the bishop is easily winning, of course. So g3, d4, so I took, rook c8, and then here I played king f1, although king g2 is probably just as good to get to f3 even quicker maybe. c4, king e2, and then here Tom played a move that I really didn't understand. I thought this was a very lousy move. I don't know exactly what his idea was. We played c3, which I thought just made my life extremely easy. The computer doesn't show like it being much worse than the best moves that he had. But from a practical standpoint, I think these c4 and d4 pawns, it's something I have to figure out a smart way to combat this. This isn't just easy. It's not easy just to stop this. So I think c3, just letting my king get to d3 is a big mistake. So he played f6 and just basically freeing his king from any back rank mates, and I took king f7, king takes d4, c2, and then I don't know, maybe he was hoping I'd play rook a1 and put my rook in a passive position even though it's still winning. But I think I have this much better move, just rook c5 here. So he took on c5, I took, he played king takes f6, and then I have this nice move h4. So basically in this position, his threat is to play g5, blocking my bishop. So for example, if I play this move, king c4, this totally loses. It would just blow a completely fantastic game, which would have been very frustrating, just because of g5, and then the pawn's going to queen on c1. So I played h4, and here my opponent resigned, which I was happy about. I thought he might try to play king e5 and try to get to f3, but I have this f3 resource also, and his king can't ever penetrate and kind of pick up my pawns. So I'm going to get this c2 pawn eventually, and then I'm going to have 3 against 2 with the extra bishop, and that's of course winning. So I was very happy with this game. I thought I played well. I think I could definitely feel some improvement in my chess. I feel pretty confident, although I must admit sometimes I'm still feeling like a little unsure. I get intimidated by certain opponents. I feel like in my next game against Jeff, I think I lost just as much by kind of fatigue, and I think I was very tired in that game, but which will be my next video. But I thought I was also kind of a little intimidated. Maybe I have a lot of respect for Jeff's game, of course, so maybe I give him like a little bit too much respect, and I didn't look for ways to get an advantage, because I just assumed there weren't as many because he's such a good player. But you don't really want to have that attitude. You want to have the attitude that just play the best you can, and no matter how good your opponent is, they're capable of making mistakes, especially if you put pressure on them. So if anything, the fact that your opponent is so good should be a reason for you to look deeper to find moves that could beat them, rather than just saying, thinking they see everything, because of course none of us do. But anyway, I was pretty happy with this game. Again, first time beating a master. I thought I handled most of the phases of the game pretty well. I know Tom wasn't happy with his play, but I thought I played very well, to be honest. So maybe his idea with knight a5 and bishop c6 wasn't so great, but I thought I did a good job kind of exploiting his mistakes, and I was happy with everything in general. So it was a good start to the tournament. I had 2 out of 2, and considering it was only a 5-round event, I figured, well, I only have 3 rounds left. I could probably do something positive. And so all in all, I had a good tournament, 3.5 out of 5. It wasn't a fantastic tournament. It was a very good tournament, I'd say, but it was, I think it was only 16 or 17 players in our section. I think coming in clear first or tied for first, especially after the start, wasn't an unrealistic goal. And even though the probability is probably against that, since there was a few people still rated quite a bit higher than me, um, I I um, I don't care about the rating too much anymore. I think my play in this game is worthy of the 2200 play, and it's just a matter of consistency at this point. It's not a question of if I can do it because I've done it. It's just a question of if I could do it, if I could play at this level as frequently as Glenn or Jeff or some other players that I really respect. And I think I'll be able to. And honestly, I think I could play even better than this, to be perfectly honest, which is kind of scary. So I'm getting more familiar with how top players play, and I've been getting more opportunities to play better players, which has helped me a lot. And I think I've kind of been disadvantaged, to be honest, over the years, that I haven't gotten more games against people at this level. So this is really helping my development. And again, I'm not really sure I guess I'm kind of planless right now when it comes to chess, what exactly I'm trying to accomplish. I know I said that after the National Open. I love to play, and I think I'm getting better, so that's obviously a reason to be optimistic. But at the same time, I have to be kind of realistic about my life in general and what I want out of life. And I have to admit that there's other things I feel like sometimes I should be focusing my time on rather than chess, of course. Maybe when you're a kid, you don't have to worry about those things, but almost hitting 30 here, so it's time for me to kind of, if I want to accomplish other things in life, it's, I don't have forever to do those things. So this is as good a time as any to kind of start focusing on other things, such as, like, I guess, career and I don't know, maybe family, but that's probably too personal for these videos. But kind of stuff like that, just like kind of life goals that you set for yourself. And I don't think I think I could do those, like, concurrently with chess. But at the same time, I have to be conscientious that I don't spend excessive amount of time on chess. I'm not like a super GM where I can earn a living off of this. I'm happy when I can earn a couple $100 in a chess tournament. It's always a good feeling, but it's not going to be enough to kind of support a nice lifestyle. And I think everyone, of course, understands that. I think we all either have other jobs or we like jobs, of course, rather than just playing chess. But anyway, this is Ryan Phillips signing off here. So hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know when I'm going to be making the videos for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. Hopefully shortly, if my voice holds up, but I'm getting pretty tired. I think I might do the Jeff Gallegos game and then do my games against Stan Vaughn and Virgil from today, either tomorrow or I don't know if I get a second win, maybe I'll do them tonight. But anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the game. Again, I think it was one of my better ones, and thank you.